Hey, what's up? Today I want to talk to you about one of my favorite mostly forgotten Sonic characters, Nack the Weasel, or Fang the Sniper as he's known in the East. I refer to him as Nack, though I know many prefer Fang. My take on the name is that I like the mix. I like to think of it similarly to Robotnik or Eggman in Sonic Adventure. I think Nack the Weasel makes a good birth name, while Fang the Sniper makes a good codename or title. But why talk about him now? As I discussed in a previous video, the series really seems to be taking a hard lean into caring about the lore and characters, and I think there's a lot of underutilized potential in this guy. The murder of Sonic the Hedgehog has been an absolute blast for character interactions, and it's really made me think about other ways characters like this could be used. Cybershell already did an incredible video on the gaming history and design of Nack, including the two other Hoodlum characters, Bark and Bean. So I won't talk as much about Nack's gaming history. I mostly want to talk about where he has potential as a character, and why I think he deserves to be brought back in particular. Nack's visual design is very cool to me. I dig the sleek, angular design where everything about him is just sharp. Even his hat is often drawn sharp-edged. This ties in well with his iconic sharp fang. I think this all works for a character that is meant to be cunning and relies on traps. After all, you call tricky characters sharp. Also, I just think purple is a cool color, and a lot of characters I like are purple. And of course, I like the design of another sniper for very similar reasons. For a very brief history, Nack started off in triple trouble for the Game Gear, and was a character really just motivated by greed. He barely showed up in the main game. He was waiting for you in the special stages, because his goal was to get the Chaos Emeralds just so that he could sell them. He wasn't after their power. He wasn't particularly concerned about defeating Sonic or allying with Robotnik. So if you never go after the Emeralds, you really don't see him in the game. So who is he? He has had a few different portrayals, but his most in-depth personality came from the Archie comics. Unlike most of the cast, Nack doesn't seem to have innate special abilities or powers. Where Sonic is fast, Knuckles is strong, and Tails is a genius that can also fly, Nack has none of this. Despite this, Nack was one of the few characters that was able to actually take down Sonic early in the comics run, entirely through traps and trickery. This is what Nack has going for him to compete: cunning, guile, and an arsenal of firearms. He is, as his title as Sniper suggests, a very good shot with a gun. The traits he consistently shows are greed, cunning, and marksman skill. These are traits also found in characters I like in other series, and there's a few reasons for that. Combat-wise, I think having to rely on tricks, skill, and traps makes for more interesting techniques than just simply being inherently powerful. A character like this has to approach every situation differently, with a different weapon or trap in mind. They can't just tank everything, and there's usually more finesse. Think of somebody like Spike Spiegel from Cowboy Bebop. He has to be really agile and dodge and parry his opponent, while relying on trick shots where he can get them to take down his targets. And that could be extremely similar to this. Personality-wise, a character being motivated by greed and self-interest is interesting to me when it's a series of otherwise black and white characters. Sonic is a hero, Eggman wants to conquer the world and is a pure villain, but someone like Nack would be more comparable to Rouge, and Nack predates her. What I'm trying to say is, I think characters like this can make for very good neutral characters, and can have connections to storylines and places that a pure good or a pure evil character wouldn't. Rouge is essentially neutral, motivated by her own greed, but she also has loyalty to the government. Nack can work as a seedier counterpart, and he has. He is often a mercenary, and opposes Sonic because of a job he's been hired to do, or some sort of plan where he sees himself able to make money or obtain something valuable, usually a Chaos Emerald. Even early on in the comics, Nack has defeated Sonic, but argues with Robotnik purely for the sake of profit. His words imply that if he doesn't get paid, he's willing to let the victory pass and leave Sonic behind. So this is interesting to me because despite that he's used pretty much primarily as an antagonist, he's not evil. He doesn't see defeating Sonic as a goal in and of itself. Sonic is just a means to an end. Here's where I'm going to veer into potential theorycraft territory. But this is also why I think he deserves to come back so much. This self-interested motivation and ability to be a true neutral character is where I see all the potential at. Nack was initially a solo character, but as the comics went on, he started relying on gangs or other teams he was usually the leader of. Issue 122 had him leading a team of other mercenary weasels to kidnap Sally. After this, especially with Flynn writing him, he got paired with Bark and Bean, and that pairing worked out pretty well. Bean was a pretty good comedic foil to Nack, and Bark got to be the muscle and cover to allow Nack some pretty cool shots. This matters because it gives more foundation for Nack as a neutral character. He's already shown willingness to work with others, so all this considered, I think it would be cool to bring him back, but not always as a villain. He would never be a hero, but he is a mercenary. There's no reason someone on the hero's side couldn't hire him against a true villain, especially some of the characters with access to greater resources, like Rouge for example. I think having him go between sides based around who has hired him would be a unique position for a character, as then you get a character that can offer intel on both sides, and just someone that can be a more versatile character. He can work for the good guys or the bad guys, or have his own separate goal. Maybe he just gets hired on to take out a key target. Nack also predates a lot of modern characters, notably Shadow and Rouge for contrast. Nack was the original character to use a gun, and unlike Shadow, it actually makes sense for him to use a gun, and vehicles, since he does not inherently possess extreme powers. Shadow uses a gun, and it's just edgy, because really Shadow does not need a gun, even for a ranged attack. He has chaos powers like the Chaos Spear. He can also move just as fast or faster than vehicles, so it was just as silly for him to do things like ride a motorcycle. Rouge is a contrast because of her nature as a spy and a treasure hunter, but I think the major difference is that Rouge works for the government, so there's always a set alignment for her. Nack has the versatility in being a freelance mercenary, to be hired by anyone. Nack's greed could also make him a good treasure hunter though, much the same as Wario has had his own adventures for Nintendo. And again, the foundation for this is already there, because in Triple Trouble, Nack was just after the emeralds for a profit. So you could build on that with new adventures where he's just trying to find something else to sell. Nack also just mechanically works differently than Rouge. Where she can be the stealthy spy, Nack is the trap layer and the marksman with the weapons arsenal. In other words, Rouge is the solid snake to Nack's revolver ocelot. For what it's worth, I always really like the flavor of Nack also being skilled with revolvers. It's an aesthetic I just think suits him really well, just the same as it does Ocelot. For another character's contrast, Nack could be portrayed extremely similarly to the sniper in TF2.
Sniping's a good job, mate.
Nack even often gets portrayed with an Australian accent by many fans. This similarity works for both serious tones and comedic meme tones, and honestly I think Sonic characters are at their best when still having a light-hearted, self-aware meme side. I also think it would just be cool to have another character that's not from the Station Square or South Island area and is just a foreigner in general. You know, someone who grew up with a different culture. I know I'm not the only one to see this potential in Nack, and I'm going to take a minute to shout out a fan game that's still in development, Sonic Galactic. There's a demo release so far, and this game looks incredible. Custom art, custom sprites, and a style that looks very reminiscent of Mania in quality. But I'm pointing them out because Nack is one of the main playable characters in this game, and he is on the hero's side. The story hasn't been released, but they do say he's working with the heroes for his own reasons. The important part is that it's like I say though, he can easily be written to be on the hero side and not just as a villain. This also means he can exist alongside the characters in something like The Murder of Sonic the Hedgehog. He totally would have fit in as someone just getting drunk at the bar or something, especially with the Western theme Knuckles had going on. It's not like Eggman, who has to be pretty much only confrontational. So that's pretty much it. After laying all this out, I really hope to spread some awareness about how cool of a character he is. And hopefully more of you will agree with me, and there can be some fan support for really bringing him back. If you stuck with me this far, what do you think? I'd love to hear what else you think could be done with his character. Maybe some ideas or betrayals I didn't list, or I just didn't think about. Please do leave a comment letting me know your thoughts also. All Nack really has left going for him anymore is in fans keeping him alive. So I love hearing others' takes and talking about it. Thanks for watching.
Maybe I'll go home.